If you hadn't been writing songs before, no one had taught you how to write a song.
No.
How did you know how to form a beginning and a middle and an end, and know where to put the verse and the chorus?
Well, that kind of thing. The arrangements. That my strength inside the years I'd been with Genesis was playing, seeing how other people's material could be interpreted, and arranging it. You know, so I was good at that. But I'd never, you know, I kind of, these things were my mental notebooks, my messages to the ex-wife, you know. Oh, if she hears this, she'll understand how hurt I am, blah, 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 you know. And she did, and she wasn't.
She just didn't care.
Not particularly, no. But they were very, very personal songs, which is why I didn't want to re-record them again, and why I ended up playing as much as possible myself.
Being personal songs, they then became very, very well-known songs. Was that quite a hard thing to go through?
Well, for me, no. I mean, I was quite surprised, you know, I mean, that anybody else was interested, frankly. I mean, I was still the singing drummer, you know. I mean, I'd been singing with Genesis for 2 years, but I was still a drummer. And if that hadn't happened in my personal life, I would never have dreamt of making a solo album.
In that case, if this hadn't happened in your personal life, do you think it's quite possible that you wouldn't have actually become a songwriter at all?
It's quite possible, yeah, yeah. I mean, it was a pivotal moment, you know, I mean, which always leads to the difficult question when someone says, so if you could do anything again, what would you do? How can I say, well, I wouldn't do anything different? Because that means that maybe I could have tried harder, although it's hard to believe that I did. I could have tried harder. But, you know, make it work and blah, you know. So it's the difficult kind of question, because that led to so much. It led to me standing on my own 2 feet a bit more, being able to contribute more to the band, being able to write things that actually touched people, which is why they went out and bought the record, I guess.
In the Air Tonight, is the lyrics, you said, just came to you.
Yeah. So
you weren't writing about specific events?
No. But, you know, I don't know if you've ever been divorced, but there's a whole area of emotion that, you know, I mean, in that song you can hear, there's some mystery, of course, but that's more the sound and the way it's presented, I think. But there's a lot of anger and there's bitterness and, you know, but right next door to it on the album is a song called You Know What I Mean, which is like, hey, you've taken everything. You know what I mean? So it's like, it wasn't just anger on the album. But, in fact, I tried to find, the interesting thing is I had the original lyrics at home in my pile of stuff. And I noticed that they were written, when I found them by accident, they were written on the back of the decorator's note paper who went off with the wife. So right. I had this piece of sort of little piece of history here, and I tried to find it to bring it, you know, to show you, because it's like what I did, I sang the words, and then after I sang the words, I then wrote them down, you know, because they had to be written down at some point. But the lyrics all came spontaneously, and so I started like that. So my method of songwriting is like that, you know. I very, very rarely do I sit down and say, now, I've got the tune, what am I going to write about? It's usually something, it could be a chorus, could be a verse, could be a couple of lines of something you've read, an idea, you know.
It starts off with a feeling or an emotion.
Yeah.
Is it cathartic?
I think if you're miserable, you tend not to put on a happy record to make yourself feel happier. You tend to sort of put a sad song on so you can feel worse and really enjoy the moment, you know. And so I suppose there's this perverse enjoyment you get out of really seeing how much you can say with as little as possible. I was really writing messages, you know, writing little letters, musical letters to my partner.
So yeah, and at this point you didn't really have an idea of them becoming public property?
No. No. And it didn't embarrass me, actually. Some people say, aren't you embarrassed by this? I mean, I never got embarrassed by what I wrote, because it was the truth, you know. You can only be embarrassed by lies, I think.